rebel against mediocrity, like in the most simplest of ways, like taking a risk to break the little bit of rule, to take that little bit of a leap of like that little protest against the bureaucracy. I mean, like literally at the line at Starbucks or something like that. Like even in the tiniest of ways, when I see people, just like it's almost like that little like glimmer in their eye, a wink, like we're in this together. There's all this conformity all around us. That's at a different time could have been Nazi Germany, could have been Stalinist Soviet Union. Sure. We're in this together. We're going to rebel against that conformity by just taking the risk, a little bit of risk against mediocrity.
I think a lot of people are not capable of that.
They're accustomed to it. I don't know if they're not capable.
No, I understand your position. I'm disagreeing with it. I'm saying I do not think they're capable. I think a lot of people effectively don't have souls. They do not have a conscience in this sense where they're going to look at an issue, bring their critical thinking, and say, all right, I'm going to do the right thing, although I'm taking a risk.
I don't think thinking is involved, or is it just taking that leap? There's something about that basic human spirit. Forget the thinking part. It's just saying like, I'll take that risk. They're taking that adventure. The same thing that got people to explore the seas, you know, throughout human civilization, explore land, explore the oceans, like that exploration. Like we've done stuff this way all this time. I'm gonna take a leap, and that comes out of nowhere.
But those people are the heroes. But I don't think that's universal. I'm going to use a very gauche example. There was a show called Scare Tactics, which was basically a candid camera, but they would scare people. Like they'd have vampires, whatever, and hidden camera and people's reactions. And so but sometimes the prank didn't work out like they expected. So there was one where they were hiring the people who were the marks, you know, the contestants, so to speak, who were hired to be a security guard. Okay, and you have to watch this factory overnight, and you get paid. And what the setup was, some people were breaking out of the factory in the middle of the night, like in rags, and they were saying they were keeping us prisoner here, like blah blah, and just watch the person reaction to this. And there was one security guard where he basically forced them back into the building, and they're working us 24/7. We're getting beaten. He's like, I'm here to do a job, get back in there. And you watch this, and it never even enters his head to be like, something's wrong here. He was given his orders, he's following his orders, and to me, that is not uncommon. And that person, although they look like you and I, there's something essentially human missing with them. Now, very quickly, the reaction is, well, it's one step from there to Nazism. I don't think it's something I'm not saying this person should be killed, but I'm just saying to expect that every human being has the capacity to have that defiance, especially at a cost of their life. That, I think, is not realistic.
You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, they'll shoot you down. Sooner or later, they'll shoot you down. Go and tell that long-tongued rider. Go and tell that great divider. Tell the reveler, the gatherer, the night rider. Tell them the gods cut them down.
Listen to them, Marxists. Can you hear the horns honking? Can you hear them? They honk for thee.
I swear to God, we will hold it still. When they took away everybody's free will. Tell the rambler, the gambler, the night, knowing the gods sooner or later gonna cut you down. You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. But sooner or later, God will cut you down. Someday soon, God will cut you down. You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, cut you down. Someday, cut you down. Go and tell that long-tongued liar. Go and tell that midnight rider.
further ado, Scott Campbell and Jay Shaw, the Unacceptable.
Hey everybody, the Unacceptables episode number 14 with perhaps a new look, a new sound, and maybe a new attitude. I don't know, a new piss poor attitude. It's probably not going to be good either way. You know us by now. Nothing is ever acceptable. With me as always is my good friend, my brother in arms, is Mr. Unacceptable himself, the incomparable Jay Shaw. How are you tonight, Jay?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Got some yard work done. We took a tree down today. Successful operation. There were no lost man hours, even though there was no hazard and risk assessment completed on that operation. We just went at it old school farm boy style on that one.
That's always the best way.
Yeah.
It's usually the most fun and the most fuel efficient, energy efficient. And I mean energy for you, for people energy.
Yeah.
Man energy.
Man energy.
Manpower.
Manpower. That's right.
Manpower.
That's right.
So we go ahead, Jay.
No, that's pretty much all I had to say. Anybody who's wondering, we missed the Sunday episode, so the update on the garden is great. Daily biomass generation is at 13%, which is good for this stage. All the plants are the beefsteak tomatoes anyway, in this case are the representatives of the plant community, and they're at 13% biomass daily, which means that they're increasing in their size, weight, etc. by 13% per day, which is a pretty strong figure.
Nice. It should hopefully do well for you, feed you well. Always like hearing about how your plants are doing. So we've got quite a show coming up for you. We have figured out how to do some new things in the stream, so it's going to be infinitely more exciting for those of you that tend to follow us and watch us. So stay tuned for this one. Now, Jay, do you want to? So, guys, with every stream we do at the bottom, there's a ticker. You'll see there's a little bit of hate for our government and a little bit of love for you guys. Generally, our socials are at the bottom, and generally speaking as well, our topic matters for the show are there. So check those out and follow us on our Telegram page, please, as well as Twitter and YouTube. Jay, why don't you? I want you to take the lead on this. You've got a pretty good clip for us here. Do you want to start with your?
Yeah, we're so in keeping with the fake news Tuesdays.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Folks, before you carry on, Jay. So we have a format now. So on Tuesdays we do fake news Tuesdays. So we both pick topics that are fake news, or at least that are presented as fake news. So it's just fake news Tuesday. I've decided we can have our own interpretation of fake news Tuesdays. So I don't care what you people think because it's our stream. So go fuck yourselves. Excuse me. But either way, so fake news Tuesdays, and that's what we're doing today. So take it away, Jay. Go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with this clip. This is you may have noticed not everybody, but some people you may have noticed that you're starting to see on receipts. You're starting to see itemized carbon tax values for various things. And of course, Jordan B. Peterson is on tour right now on a global tour where 14 million people bought tickets to watch Jordan Peterson on stage. And they did that. They did that in 11 days. Nice. So, if you ever feel really cynical, just think about that for like 2 minutes. And then you might get into some kind of existential thing. It'll be better. Here's the clip.
I'm not a fan of the WEF. I'm not a fan of globalist utopians. I think they're pretentious and ignorant beyond comprehension. I don't like central planners. I don't think central planning works. And I particularly don't like central planners who deny local sovereignty. And that might be the sovereignty of the individual or the sovereignty of the province or the state or the country. Better to have decentralized power. Better to have responsibility distributed down the hierarchy all the way to the individual. And I don't trust people who don't know that. I was noticing the other day, this really, to be vulgar, pissed me off. I was on an airplane flying here, and I looked up some additional flights because my flight got delayed. And I looked up the flights on Google from Dallas to Auckland. And when the flights came up, all the flights were listed with their carbon load. And I thought, you pricks. How dare you sell me something, airline ticket, and moralize at me at the same time? It's like, you're airlines, right? Yeah. You run planes? Yeah. Do they produce carbon? Yeah. Are you selling the tickets? Yes. But we want to make you feel guilty about the carbon. Well, no, thank you. Thank you very much. And all I see in that is, well, what's the next thing? Well, the next thing, obviously, is there's already a bank. I think a bank in Australia announced this 2 weeks ago. This is what they're offering you. You want to save the planet? We'll send you a report every month that details out the carbon load of all your purchases. It's like, oh, good. You're going to track what I buy, and you're going to associate each of those purchases with planetary scale damage. And you don't think that's going to go wrong. Because what's the next step? It's like, well, that's easy. So we hierarchically rank your purchases by degree of hypothetical planetary damage, and we tax you on that basis. Or maybe we just decide, why the hell do you need to fly anyways? Why are you so important? Why does your concern, your petty business concern, trump the health of the planet? Why should you be allowed to fly at all? I mean, it's a bloody miracle, right? It's a miracle. And if you don't know this, you're not thinking. You free people in a country like New Zealand, you can just hop on a jet. I mean, I know you have to be able to afford the ticket. But if you can afford the ticket, you could just hop on a jet. And you can go anywhere. And you can buy a car. You can buy a car. Think of that. And then you can just drive somewhere you want to drive. And no one can tell you not to. Yet. And that's a miracle. It's like, what makes you so important? What's your stupid business? Who cares about your pizza restaurant? You're dumping carbon into the atmosphere. You don't need to fly. You don't need a car. You might not even need a bicycle. You can just walk. And you should hold your breath while you're walking. So I see the globalist utopian types, the WEF types, they're all concerned about climate change, and they're not. I talked to Bjorn Lomborg the other day about this, and Lomborg, I think, knows more about this than anyone else in the world. He figures all the trillions of dollars that have been spent since 2005 on climate remediation, COP27. Well, we tried this 26 times already and it didn't work at all. So the next thing to do is to try it 27 times. It's like he figures that all of the climate remediation we've managed so far, according to the UN's own climate model projections, has reduced the temperature of the planet 1/10,000th of a degree. And so the obvious thing to do with that sort of data at hand is to do a bunch more of it more expensively. And that's what your utopian globalists are insisting that you do. And you think, well, they won't come for your car. It's like, oh, not only will they come for your car, they already have. what makes you think you have a right to a car? And I've thought this for years, that there's almost nothing more miraculous that our society has ever produced on the front that unites metaphysics and technology than the automobile. You think how free a country has to be so that some 16-year-old yahoo can buy a 500 horsepower Mustang and race it down the streets. Like, do you know how dangerous that is? It's like the most dangerous thing you ever do in your life. And maybe you'll encourage your teenager to do it because you'd rather be free and living an adventure than be a secure slave. It's like, here's the keys, kid. Try not to die. I think one of the things the West did that undermined the totalitarian states so brutally was to entice them with automobiles. Because there's nothing that screams individual freedom louder than a car, right? Noisy, dangerous, fast, private, free. You export those to a totalitarian country, and the technology itself says you can do whatever the hell you want, even if it's dangerous. Well, that's the ethos of a courageous people. It's like, well, we can't have that anymore because why? Carbon. Yeah, well, carbon. It's like, yeah, you hate automobiles, you hate comedians, you're a tyrant. So, yeah, I don't like the WEF.
It's a great clip. Like you said earlier, Jay, he seems to get funnier and funnier with a lot of his stuff. I mean, obviously, that's taken out of a long conversation, so he's expanding on his point and stuff like that throughout it. But, and those are some wise words from the man there, Jordan Peterson.
The pride of Fairview, Alberta. Shout out to Fairview, Alberta, because nobody online has probably ever said those words. So. You heard it here first, folks.
Shout out to Fairview, Alberta. Jesus. I think you're insinuating they don't want to admit they're from Fairway, Alberta, which, I mean, if it's anything like, I don't know, Ottawa, I would be right on side with them. I mean, I wouldn't want to admit I'm from there either, for fuck's sakes, but I am, unfortunately. I was born there.
Oh, yeah.
We try not to hold that against me, though.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Jordan Peterson's take on that is what has been occurring and escalating hasn't worked, and the possible negative effects of that, and the doors that opens into a Stalinist type of regime is very fucking dangerous. And before you get too critical of capitalism to the point where you'll give in to a totalitarian mindset, is that you would not have open heart surgery, automobiles. You probably wouldn't have steel without capitalism. The market is the ultimate fair judge. The market says that you will get the value of the thing. And that depends how rare it is and how much utility it has, and nothing more. The market is fair like nothing you've ever seen. It's bipartisan. It doesn't pick and choose sides. You drive the market. And when somebody tries to take the market away, they're taking away your ability to function cohesively in a way that is forward-looking. So it's a way that they stop your culture, stagnate it, and choke it off. That's exactly what Stalinism is. And it's what's implied financially in Marxist, in all of the writings of the ultra-racist Karl Marx. The most racist person probably who ever lived.
No, so hang on a second here. According to the Trudeau Liberal government, we're racist. For a lot of reasons. We're unacceptable. Also, we have unacceptable views. We're a fringe minority. We're racists. But an interesting note here is that we're also racist if we say that there has been Chinese interference in our elections. We're now being labeled as racist for saying a fact, for stating a fact. And I want you people to understand that this is the playbook. So when you corner a liberal, the first thing they do is call you an ist or an ism, because they've got nothing to go to. And they don't know anything. They haven't studied any history. They haven't read any fucking books. So all they can do is go, "You're racist because you said this." When it has no basis in reality, they'll simply just call you a thing that is the most abhorrible, unacceptable thing in society right now. And just imagine that you're going to just back down right away, which most people will. I mean, let's face it, most people in this fucking country will turtle as soon as you say racist, as soon as you say, anything like that. So, I mean, they're not far off. I mean, it's a good tactic, but it's about time people started saying what they think and stopped being afraid of being labeled as something. So I want to
stop participating. Just stop participating.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. And I want to tie that into part of my fake news Tuesday edition here, which is a little bit about some fake news going on with China. So let's just bring it up here. We'll tie it in here. This is brand new to us here. I think this will work here. Here we go. All right, here we go. Clip for you here.
We've been warning about this for months, and now it looks like it's finally here. Over the past 72 hours, the United States started rolling out a new way to draw China and Russia into a war by drawing ridiculous red lines in Ukraine and launching a new stunning propaganda machine. This thing is amazing. And the most stunning part is that the United States just admitted they're lying in order to create this conflict. Yeah, they're on the record about this. I'll have more on that in just a moment. But first, the United States just announced it's sending troops to Taiwan and more military assets to prepare for the coming war with China. Yes, they said this out loud, but they're pushing more fake news about China and Russia. They're hoping you're too stupid to read a book or to dive into the truth so that you'll just fall in line and go along with whatever propaganda they're heaving at us this week. We'll get to all of this and these latest developments around the propaganda and Putin and China's response to the West in a moment. But first, the United States is desperately trying to hold on to U.S. hegemony right now around the U.S. dollar. And instead of doing it through economic incentives, like China's doing with a multi-trillion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative, which has drawn in all sorts of new partners in the Middle East and Asia, even Germany. Instead, America is doing the opposite. It's using military force to try and hold on to power. And America's infrastructure is crumbling right before our eyes. And President Biden just announced another $10 billion be sent to Ukraine to help their economy. You can't even make this up. If you needed any more evidence of America's collapsing infrastructure, just look at the many railroad derailments or bridge collapses over the past few months.
Tonight, authorities are on the scene of a deadly bridge collapse in Clay County, Missouri.
There's more bridge collapses happening every week. Or if you need more evidence that America is in trouble, just look at how one of the Village People showed up in East Palestine, Ohio to save the day after the Biden administration allowed Norfolk Southern Railroad to destroy the town by burning deadly chemicals. So do you feel any safer now that Pete Buttigieg showed up in Ohio? I'd feel safer if Barney Fife showed up in Ohio. So this is America right now, where politicians lie right to your face about how good your life is, like Vice President Kamala Harris telling us that the Biden administration has lowered energy prices and put more money in your pocket.
For working families, we have reduced heating and electricity bills. So folks have more money in their pocket to buy things like school supplies, replace the dishwasher, or take a family vacation.
That's a categorical lie. In fact, prices are up dramatically.
I'm with you, by the way, Erica. I feel like Michael Keaton could fix these problems.
People are sharing new ways to cook food or heat their homes. Like this viral video teaching people how to save gas money.
As Beetlejuice or Batman.
Can of tuna,
either way,
using the oil in the tuna, light it on fire, and then cook inside or outside your home. Hey, it's cheaper than using natural gas.
I'm not cooking on tuna. I'm not fucking doing it.
Cheap gas pipeline.
I mean, you cook your tuna at the same time as you cook
or
your
turning off
food on the tuna, so maybe it's a win-win. Who knows?
Winter. The real problem will be winter of next
year
when those stockpiles run out and there's no cheap gas to refill them. And America, of course, likes to lecture the world about how to live after we blow up their pipeline. Just walk down the street in any major American city right now, and you're going to see their policies in action. Just walk down Kensington Avenue in my hometown of Philadelphia and see the drug addicted stumbling over themselves, falling in the middle of the street, or the tent cities that are just blocks from the White House. But our priorities, of course, are sending $10 billion additionally to Ukraine. So this week, we saw a major turn in the effort to draw Russia and China into an armed conflict with NATO forces, and major revelations that the United States is actively lying about both Russia and China, in fact, admitting that they're lying, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, President Biden flying into Ukraine under the dark of night last week, instead of flying to East Palestine, Ohio. Here, he pledges more money and aid to Vladimir Zelensky and the corrupt Ukrainian government. And then he told the world his NATO intentions, which is that if China and Russia start getting too close to NATO, we'll fight back.
And every member of NATO knows it. And Russia knows it as well. An attack against one is an attack against all.
Hilarious.
He's a fucking
if you
lunatic.
Get too close to us?
Insane.
You literally just built 6 new military bases on China's doorstep, and you're using American-made weapons to attack Russia. These are the United States and NATO bases surrounding China at the moment. Could you imagine if this was the Gulf of Mexico and China, and Russia had bases on every little island they could find? The hypocrisy is so strong you can cut it with a knife. So we know that the NATO red line is not really about Russia, it's about China. It's about America's fading power in the world. And we learned this week that the United States and NATO just rolled out a new propaganda program as we prepare for a war with China. A new report lays out how the United States, along with Five Eyes nations and Japan, are launching a new propaganda and information war against China. In this report, Vice Admiral Kelly Osbach, commander of the Naval Information Forces. Did you know that the Navy had an informational forces? They do, because we need a lot of propaganda. He went on the record with a reporter and explains how the United States is actively spreading lies about China, that China is somehow now delivering weapons to Ukraine to help Russia. It's laughable. It's fake news. But they're trying to create the story based on no evidence. Here's Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield telling CNN that this is our new red line against China.
China should not get involved in this war in the sense of providing lethal weapons to the Russians. That it would be a game changer.
So suddenly all of these threats against China about them putting weapons inside of Ukraine for Russia? So where did all of this come from?
The irony is
All
nigh.
of that fake China balloon propaganda came from. That we're being attacked by Chinese balloons. It turns out they were kids' hobbyist balloons.
Fake
But that
news.
doesn't matter, because a lie can travel halfway around the world before truth has a chance to put on its pants. Now, as Caitlin Johnstone explains, one significant recent instance of the United States government's acknowledged use of information warfare was when U.S. officials told NBC News that the U.S. government has been deliberately circulating unsubstantiated fake information to Western news media as part of an information war against Russia. They admitted this.
We start this hour with the U.S. using intelligence to fight an information war and doing it to Russia for months now, and it's working. NBC News national security correspondent Ken Delaney live in Washington. Ken, I want to start by giving people an example of what this is so they know what we're talking about. Take a look.
They're also suggesting that Ukraine has biological and chemical weapons in Ukraine. That's a clear sign he's considering using both of those.
So that was a total lie. And NBC News was telling us about that. Guys, you're watching the United States actively looking for its next fake Colin Powell moment where he holds up a small vial of chemical weapons and says that Saddam Hussein is using this stuff to justify a war in Iraq. And not to be outdone, the Wall Street Journal also got in on the intelligence propaganda by publishing a piece that came straight out of the deep state with this headline: Chinese drones still support Russia's war in Ukraine, trade data shows. Oh, so China is sending drones to Ukraine to help Russia? The answer is no, they're not. In fact, buried deep within the Wall Street Journal piece, they even admit the lie. But you'd have to read all the way down to the end.
I submit that everything is
Then
made in
warmonger
China,
Anthony
so
Blinken
how is
accusing
China not
of
sending
getting ready to send
drones
all
everywhere?
kinds of lethal weapons to Ukraine, he said this week. Then the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Linden fired back.
Well, it was a trade poll, right?
Blinken made those comments.
It wasn't a public opinion piece. That's the way that they manipulate the words, right? That's how they tell lies and get people to buy them,
Truth hurts.
right? Like
So you're being set up and you're being lied to. That's
lying language,
Putin gave a large
fucking legalese bullshit,
West
right?
uses lies and propaganda to cover up its NATO
Fucking
expansion.
И здесь опять лгут постоянно, извращают исторические факты.
The Putin speech was actually pretty astonishing. You should all watch the full thing if you want some context, because they'll never show it to you in Western television at all. My favorite example of this is when State Department spokesman Ned Price was telling all of us that Putin was hiring actors to create a movie where it would show a massacre occurring as justification for his war in Ukraine. And journalist Matt Lee isn't having any of it and demands to see the evidence of all of this. Watch him squirm.
One, the actions I've just pointed to. The fact that Russia continues to engage in disinformation campaigns.
You made an allegation that they might do that. Have they actually done it?
What we know, Matt, is what I've just said, that they.
Of course, they can't produce any evidence of this because they invented it. It's a lie. This is a desperate act by a desperate Western hegemony, which is quickly in decline. This week, we learned that energy resources being delivered from Russia to China have dramatically increased, including natural gas, oil, and uranium. So this partnership is now stronger than ever thanks to our bumbling lies and our failures of diplomacy. We are losing, and it's starting to show up in much bigger ways as we head into next winter. So that's the news update part of this video. Now I want to introduce you to our sponsor for today's video, which is tied directly to the Western demand for uranium right now. The demand is off the charts. The company
Hey, little bit of technical difficulties there, folks. Sorry about that.
I see.
We're back. I guess I had muted your mic by mistake, as well as my mic, and forgot to turn my camera on. So you get what you get. It's a new platform for us, folks.
That's awesome. Shit happens.
None of you pay us for this. This is being done free of charge. So
yeah,
up until the point that you're actually paying us to do this, don't expect anything great. You get what
we need a producer. We need a producer.
Again, this is free of charge, so we can't afford to pay a producer, but we need one. If anybody wants to slave for us for free, we'll take applications. Just send it in to join@therabbitholeguild.com.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, we will put we'll put up a PayPal link in the description of the videos when we shoot them over to recorded. So you'll be able to find them there. I will, for the next episode, I will give it to Scott to put into the description of the video. Or we'll get that set up as a template, perhaps like a jig. We could make a jig for it.
Make a jig, so I can cut it the same every time.
That's exactly right. Okay, so the next one here, there's a couple. This one's quite thick with various with the implications of various fake news, and then this towards the end here, we'll see what one enterprising Canadian is doing to fight back against fake news.
I'm fraternizing with the founder of Diagolon.
We've actually just launched because I get accused, a lot of us do, I'm sure we've all dealt with this, because if you're online doing anything, you're a grifter, you're grifting, and everything is just, that kind of stuff. So we've launched our merch shop, selling, flags and things, and we've called it the Grift Shop. It's the grift.shop. That's the website you can go and, and it's actually, we just started yesterday, and it's actually doing pretty well. So that's good. And fortunately, thanks to you and your community and a lot of the people that have showed up to help and covered a lot of most of my legal fees have been covered, so that's been pretty great. And I've not been able to get a traditional bank account per se. I have remedied that. There's something in place that functions as a bank account. So
I mentioned it, and I had from a good source that even at the banks at the local level, they had no idea why it was just an order coming down from the top. It was all banks, and it was basically all federally chartered banks, correct?
I think so. I didn't check every single one. I mean, I did a couple credit unions, a couple of the other banking competitors, like the big name ones, and they're just like, Yeah, no, it was pretty. I didn't want to waste time like week after week after week, like going through application after application. Once I kind of got the picture, it was pretty. I would have to go into an obscure place to find banks people have never heard of, or this kind of thing, that people that they're not in the cool kids club of the banking cartel, that maybe they won't care, and that's what I did. So I've got a few different accounts in that operate in different countries that I'm not. That's what it's come to.
Dude,
but
I don't want any more
it is.
information than that. So this is the grift. I love it.
Right.
The people throw around the word grift. They don't understand what it means. It's like imagine calling me as a lawyer. You're grifting for that $100,000 a year.
Technically, yes. Taking money for services you provide is what's grifting. So it's like a job is grifting, I suppose. And everything I do. And I'm sure what you're doing, like, this is free. Like, no one's paying us to be here. Like, anyone can watch anything I do for free forever. They always will and can. And if people want to send money, they can. I appreciate it.
Jeremy,
they don't have to.
When you set up a paywall for some stuff to actually give exclusive content to those who financially support you, then it's all about the money. The grift term drives me nuts because grift technically, and this is my understanding, this is how I believe it to exist. It's creating the drama to profit from the drama. That's what grifting means. Graft, oddly enough, in British talk means to work hard. I like this. So now hold on, because I saw. Oh, there you go.
I guess I missed. I'm sorry, everybody. There was an awesome photo there that I forgot that I gapped out on.
No worries. For those of you who don't know, that is Jeremy McKenzie with Viva Frey off of Rumble. So you can go onto Rumble and follow Viva Frey. He's got a lot of followers. He does a lot of really great stuff. He's a lawyer. He's got a law practice with an American lawyer, Mr. Barnes, and he's got a lot of great customers and a lot of great. The pictures in the background. We can take here. Let's do this. No, wait, let's do here. We'll take our pictures out for a second here, Jay. Just stop your camera.
You bet. Oh, it leaves it there, eh?
Yeah, no, here, I'll just, what I'll do is I'll just remove you from the stream. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, so you guys can see that's one hell of a lady in the German parliament, posing with Derek from Derek Rants. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on Telegram as well. Please, guys, go follow us on the Telegram page, telegram.t.me Rabbit Hole Guild, and typically we'll share a lot of stuff on there that we can't share anywhere else. Just so you know it's there.
Now, what about next week? We were planning on doing some listener exclusive content on another platform.
Yeah. Next, do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to hold it to the end? It's up to you.
No, let's cover it so we don't forget about it.
So I think what the plan is for next week, folks, is we're going to do a quick live for our followers and our friends on TikTok. Followers only. So followers, not followers only, but friends only. And then we will get you guys to come and follow us over. We'll just basically do a quick live stream on TikTok, and we'll get you guys to come and join us on Rumble or YouTube for the live, or Twitter if you don't like YouTube, you can choose to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's an interesting way to do it. It's actually maybe a smart way to do it, because TikTok has a funny algorithm, and they want to keep the narrative shaped the way they want it shaped. And Rumble and not so much YouTube as much, but Rumble certainly doesn't do that. And by next week, we hope that some of the people on TikTok will come and follow us on Rumble, so we can get live on Rumble as well, and so we can maybe even phase away from YouTube and go on towards Rumble, which is the better platform, more free speech, right?
Yeah.
Free speech is good.
That's right. And I just want to quickly add on there too. By a round of applause in comments, how many people would like to know somebody who doesn't like to log into YouTube or anything like that and would like to just watch live streams on something that wasn't connected to any kind of a social media thing, because we could bump up our membership on StreamYard, which we're using right now, because Restream is the most awful thing ever.
Restream.
We can bump up our membership, and then we could actually, StreamYard could host the live stream. So if anybody didn't want to go onto any weird apps, like if you know somebody who doesn't like going on to social media apps and stuff, that's one way that's disconnected from all that you can watch it just kind of in a more of a private type of setting. We can make that available, but we need people to support the notion of it being there, and or possibly throw a couple bucks at us to help offset the cost.
Yeah, so none of this stuff is free. Our time is free for you guys for now. And apparently all of the things that it takes to bring this to you are free. But what isn't free is the software it takes to get this to you. So the hardware we obviously provide because we own the hardware, but the software isn't free. So if you guys are considering maybe finding us on a different platform, and you would consider kicking in a couple of bucks, even if it's $2 each a month, that would go towards something.
Yeah.
And
we will do exclusive content like the TikTok thing. Like we can make that happen on a private basis. On YouTube, we could, or really any platform has the ability for us to do private content. So I mean, we could set up special private content too, and then we can really let it fly too. Without worrying about anybody complaining, because once you have it as a private event, nobody can really complain about anything.
And if they do, they can get fucked, because it'd be complaining hosting the event, which would be us at that point. Which
Yeah, I'm really sorry that I just coughed in the mic, everybody. I just didn't even think of that. That was stupid and inconsiderate. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Terrible.
So I've got another clip for us to watch here together. So I'm going to get this ready for us here. Some more fake news for you, folks.
Fake News Tuesday.
Fake News Tuesday. So we'll just roll this. We'll talk about the clip afterwards. Jay, just so you know, I'm going to mute your mic for this clip.
Get the popcorn, Canada. The next few months are set to be very exciting times. You all know about the China election interference story, so I won't burden you with going through and summarizing all of what we now know before getting into the latest and most important details. On Friday, Global News broke this story wide open and are now dropping names of current MPs, yes, sitting Liberal MPs and other Liberal operatives allegedly involved in Chinese communist election meddling operations. And in response to that reporting, Justin Trudeau is now accusing anyone who believes in that reporting of stoking anti-Asian racism. Desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess, but I think it's pretty clear that things are not looking so good in the Liberal camp these days. Drop a like on the video, help us out by subscribing to the True North YouTube channel, and the comment question for the episode is this: is the Chinese election interference story the biggest political scandal in Canadian history? Let me know, and let's get into it. Well, the China story gets better and better as the weeks go by, doesn't it? Take a look at this Global News broadcast from Friday afternoon. They are now dropping names of sitting MPs allegedly involved with the Chinese Communist Party. This is getting totally wild. Watch this.
Sources say Han Dong had help from the Chinese consulate in Toronto to become the 2019 Liberal candidate in the riding. Through a combination of CSIS documents and intelligence sources, Global News has learned the consulate allegedly sent 2 busloads of Chinese Canadian seniors to the Don Valley North Liberal nomination meeting, and those seniors knew who to vote for because Don's name was written on their arm. Sources also say CSIS suspected that Chinese international students with faked addresses were bussed in and told by the PRC consulate to support their preferred candidate if they wanted to maintain their student visa status. Dong denied allegations he was helped by Beijing, calling them false accusations that slander me and the community I represent.
And when asked by a CBC journalist to clarify whether or not he had been warned about Han Dong's 2019 candidacy in Don Valley North, Justin Trudeau responded by saying that believing in this story, accusing Han Dong of being involved in the Chinese Communist election interference operation is feeding into anti-Asian racism. It's the kind of stuff you can't make up.
Just a follow-up on that question on CSIS and Han Dong. Are you saying that they didn't warn you, or were you warned and you chose to dismiss it for those reasons? Just wanted some clarification.
Once again, one of the things we've seen, unfortunately, over the past years is a rise in anti-Asian racism linked to the pandemic, and concerns being arisen around.
You're a racist. You're an ism.
I want to make everyone understand fully that Han Dong is an outstanding member of our team, and suggestions that he is somehow not loyal to Canada should not be entertained.
It's important to also note for the record that everyone involved in this story, Han Dong, the Liberal Party of Canada, the Prime Minister's office, everyone accused of wrongdoing in this story vehemently deny the allegations. Han Dong followed that up with an official statement denying the allegations. He writes that he rejects the insinuations in media reporting that allege he has played a role in offshore interference in these processes and will defend himself vigorously against such inaccurate and irresponsible claims that come from an unverified and anonymous source. Now, Don Valley North is the definition of a safe Liberal seat. The Liberals could have nominated a golden retriever and the dog would have beat the Conservative challenger. So why then did the Liberals go forward with Han Dong's nomination if they were going to win the seat anyways? You know, they could have probably picked someone who wasn't a target of CSIS, wasn't allegedly an asset of the Chinese Communist Party. But nonetheless, according to this reporting, the Liberals went forward with it, despite being told by CSIS that they should not. That's interesting. CSIS telling Justin Trudeau to do one thing and Justin Trudeau doing the opposite? Where have we heard that before? Conveniently for the feds, this reporting by Global News was dropped on Friday afternoon, the one time in the weekly news cycle where you play stories that you want to bury for next week. But something tells me this story isn't going anywhere. In fact, as the comment question alludes to, this might be one of the biggest scandals that this government has to deal with. And let's be honest, there's no way that the feds don't feel the pressure now. On Friday, Justin Trudeau was asked if he would establish a public inquiry into election interference by the Chinese state. Given all that we know now and the seriousness of this issue, this was how Justin Trudeau responded to that question.
Will you establish a public inquiry into Chinese interference in the past two elections as called for by the former electoral officer, Jean-Pierre Kingsley?
I think it is a very good thing that Canadians are understanding how serious it is that China and other countries are continuing to try to destabilize and influence our democracies and our institutions. That's why we have continually given new resources and new tools, including a panel and a task force that we set up way back in 2019 to ensure that our election integrity held, that our national security experts are able to do the work that Canadians expect them to do. We welcome the work that committees are doing. We'll continue to work to give all the tools necessary to our national security agencies so that Canadians can continue to be confident that we are taking this as seriously as it must be. And I say again, we are taking this extremely seriously and always have.
Completely avoids answering the question, rules out calling a public inquiry so Canadians can have confidence in our democracy, have confidence in our elections. No, he doesn't really care about it at all, it appears. After all, we know Justin Trudeau's stance on China. His favorite country, the country he most admires, is the great People's Republic of China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about.
And from previous reporting on this story, we know that the Chinese government specifically wanted to have a liberal minority government in power. They specifically wanted Justin Trudeau to be the Prime Minister of Canada. Justin Trudeau was China's guy, and China got their win. So you can understand, if you were purely self-centered and focused on doing anything to maintain power, you would want nothing to do with this China election story. But for the rest of us, for all of Canada, we're looking at this and saying, what the heck is going on here? And so is the Toronto Star. Take a look at this reporting from Justin Trudeau's loyal stenographers, who it appears have maybe started to turn on the man that pays their salary. This is an opinion column from Andrew Phillips written in the Toronto Star. Justin Trudeau is digging a deeper hole for himself on Chinese meddling in elections. And in response to Robert Fife's request for comment from the Globe and Mail, Gerald Butts, Justin Trudeau's former principal secretary, called on the government to establish a nonpartisan inquiry into election interference. And despite all the pressure from Gerald Butts, from the Toronto Star, from the CBC, the Globe and Mail, really these are his own teammates. These are his own players. Despite the pressure from them, he still is refusing to call an inquiry into Chinese election interference. Han Dong is the first name to drop, accused of being involved in election interference from the Chinese state. But who else will be name dropped? We know from reporting that 11 candidates in the GTA alone were targeted by the CCP for election interference. There are probably many more across the country, and that means more names, more juicy headlines, and more good stories. That's going to do it for us today on the show. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Harrison Faulkner, and this is Ratio.
I think it's safe to say the tides are turning. You
Mhm.
can see that the politicians are, even the former politicians are now coming out and saying, you know what, this is something's not right here. We should look into this. And I mean, Gerald Butts of all people to come out and say something like that after his collusion with the Trudeau Liberal government is a very telling thing. I don't think it's going to be long before we see more Liberal cabinet members start to maybe to shift their views and to shift their narrative a little bit to certainly to, because if you're smart at this point, you distance yourself from this, because this is treason. I mean, what we're talking about right now is treason, and the punishment for treason is still a firing squad. So I'm surprised that there aren't more people coming out and speaking out against this, but I'm quite certain there will be many more to come. Certainly from the Liberal camp or any other camp, they need to come out and talk about this because this is actually treason. The only reason they wouldn't come out and talk against this or about this more is, well, I mean, quite frankly, is if China now owns Canada, which, quite frankly, from my perspective, from what I can see, there's a very close relationship between China and Canada, and not in the good sense. We are a very socialist-leaning country, let's admit it. And China likes that. We're a very accepting country, and we are a very left-leaning country, all of which plays very well into China's end. So, none of this seems like a big stretch, for sure.
No, not at all. No, and especially while we're weak, and at the moment, because of decisions, and some of it's our government, and a lot of it's Joe Biden as well, because of those two guys, Trudeau and Biden, we're in a weak position financially, and we shouldn't be, based on the price of our resources right now. There's no reason that we should be in the financial situation that we're in, but we're simply avoiding working. Like the country is being told to avoid work essentially, and it's just wrong. But it keeps us in a weakened state, and I think sometimes it looks
does,
like that.
certainly, and I think it also speaks to how much this demoralization has really taken hold. So we're talking about here is when I speak of demoralization, I mean the total demoralizing of all principles. So in your educational system, in your religious circles, in you know, so vilify all forms of religion, and and so what happens is you know, especially when you give it a generation, is you know, you sort of make all these things that were previously not considered acceptable, like, you know, legalizing hard drugs. You can now legally walk around British Columbia with 2 grams of cocaine, 2 grams of meth, 2 grams of fentanyl, and a bunch of other 2 grams of heroin, 2 grams, like all these, just because they just, you know, have decided to just, you know, go the other way. Screw having laws, screw treating people. Let's just legalize it so that everybody has it and it's no longer a crime. And it you know, it's just the slow erosion of our society and of our laws and of our principles that they're preying on. And that's what they've done. They've worked on this for decades now, 20, 30, 40 years, and they've installed people that will create this mentality and create this philosophy at all levels of government, at all levels of education, to basically create a program so that your education and what your indoctrination is basically is an education. That's, you know, indoctrination starts when you're in kindergarten, and they start you super early now. So now they're not only doing this, they're also doing things like going so far as to make it acceptable for parents to condone their children's genitals being mutilated because they don't feel like they identify as the sex or as the gender that they're born with. And when you've pushed a country that far into oblivion, you've won. So this is how China now knows that they can do whatever the fuck they want, and nobody's going to stand. Do you think Trudeau is going to stand up to China? Do you think Macron? Do you think any of these leaders are going to stand up to? Nobody's going to say shit.
No.
They're not in China's pocket directly. They're working for somebody that's feeding them money indirectly from China. So it's all, you know, they're all in the same boat right now. And this is what people need to understand, and this is what we need to do as a society and as a you know, country, is start making more noise. I mean, people don't seem to care. Like, we're on the precipice, literally on the precipice of World War III, as you just saw, and they're being pushed further and further and further towards World War III, and people are looking up at Chinese spy balloons. Spy balloons, which that was a fake news story. They weren't even Chinese spy balloons. But this is how we're redirecting people's attention. And the fact that people are actually taking that as the threat instead of the looming war in Taiwan and the looming war in World War all over the planet is shocking to me. Well, you know, at this point, it shouldn't be shocking to me, but it's still shocking to me for some reason. Maybe I believe that people can be salvaged. I'm not sure they can, but I don't think most people can, but I think some people still can. But either way, I think the fact that people are looking at balloons floating around, they go, oh my God, there must be UFOs, instead of focusing on the fact that the government is all, the Western governments, NATO is all out of enemies anywhere else. And so this is where they're now focusing all of their attention. And why? Because the military industrial complex needs money, because the American economy functions almost exclusively on their military.
Yeah.
And if you take that away from them and you take the petrodollar away, they're fucked. So this is their last stand. And you people need to realize that this is what it's all about. And they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck enough to the point that they will cause a nuclear conflict as long as they can hang on to their fucking power. Here's how little they care about you and I, folks. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. We unfortunately we ended up being a minority in the population that happens to be right. Nietzsche said that the presumption of correctness based on the opinion of the mob is very seldom correct, right? And so that's what we've got. The mob, the people who have elected these terrible human beings and come to tolerate these stupid things from governments in general. Now, like left, right, doesn't matter. What your governments do to you is totally morally bankrupt, totally disrespectful of not just the constitutions that we have, but also to our person, like just to our person. It's very insulting. And, it's been normalized and accepted by just a large group of people who are just wrong. Like they're not taking enough time to think and consider that that what they're doing is just totally morally bankrupt. And that's science is really only 2020, right? So you can kind of know what has happened with science. As for the future, you have to insert morality, common sense, and ethics, and drop the fucking envy shit. Because envy drives this all. Why is Bill Gates such an asshole? Because he's envious. He's envious of what other people have that he doesn't have, which is courage.
And a moral compass, and some sort of sense of how to be in shape, and a whole bunch of other things. I think we're just about at our time here. We're just going over an hour. Usually we try and do an hour of content for you guys. So that's probably about the end of it here. Heather says she doesn't have Rumble. So Heather, if you don't have Rumble, please go and get Rumble. It's easy. Just type in the words Rumble in a Google search.
I'll send you a link, sweetheart. I'll send you a link.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Good enough. So we'll let Jay.
I hope they
take
can
care
get
of
it in the States. I'm just kidding.
you never know at this point. Send her a link of the Fringe Monkey 22. So you guys can follow me on Twitter as well. Fringe Monkey 22, Rumble, Fringe Monkey 22. It's the same on YouTube as well. But you don't follow me on YouTube. Follow Unacceptables, or rather Rabbit Hole Guild on YouTube, because
He's lazy with his personal YouTube.
I'm lazy with
He's a professional like that.
I'm
Puts all this
professional at
time
being
into
busy.
this, so he doesn't have time for his own personal YouTube. You see that selfless dedication.
There you go.
If everybody did 5 minutes a day, we could do a lot of amazing things. If people would just dedicate to the tribe a little bit.
We could. There were a couple of quotes here, or a couple of things said in the chat. Maybe we can just highlight these.
Just
thank you,
click on
folks.
them.
Yeah, no, I will in a
Okay.
second. I know how to do it.
Okay.
Thank you, folks, first of all, for joining us live. For those of you that are watching the rebroadcast or the rewatch, or however you want to call it, thank you as well. We really appreciate you taking the time to rewatch us, because I feel like you'll be able to pay more attention if you rewatch it as opposed to live, because we babble a lot and there's clips and there's things happening in your life. So at least when you rewatch it, you'll be able to, if you find something compelling, you can pause it to go about your day and come back to it. And there will be an audio version as well. We will create the links, or put the links for that in the description on YouTube, so you can go and listen to the audio version only. And with Rumble, once we get our shit together on Rumble, you can just literally listen to the audio version only from Rumble. So it sort of eliminates the need to do podcasts, which is why we're trying to get everybody towards Rumble. So Heather, if you're still watching, please go hop onto Rumble right now and follow Fringe Monkey 22, as well as Fringe Monkey 22 on Twitter. And then that way we have you all over the place. Now, in closing, I just, again, thank you folks for joining us. Thank you for those that are going to watch the restream. Thank you for the comments, everybody. It's been fun. It's been a good cast. This is our first kick at the can with StreamYard, much better than Restream. So this is how we're going to push, or how we're going to go, moving forward. And it's a Fake News Tuesday. I'm going to close it off with not a fake news quote, but just a quote. And this is from Michael G. Hoff, and it's hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And the reason that I feel that quote is so critical or important for this stream is that what we see now is people being weak and too afraid to speak up when they know something's wrong. And don't you do that. If you see somebody like us or another streamer, anybody who's speaking up, who's taking the time to try and make a difference, to try and scream from the top of the buildings that something is not right, please take the time to listen, because it takes work to fix things. It takes work to have a stance, and it takes it takes a certain amount of hardness, if you will, for people to present their views, for the world to see, and not give a fuck what anybody else says. So if you have any inkling towards an opinion, we'd love to have you drop into the chat. We could even have you as a guest into the stream if you're so inclined. Some people are not. Either way, just remember that go and look for information. Don't just take the spoon-fed narrative being fed to you by the propaganda arm of the Liberal government here in Canada, or the Liberal Democratic government, rather, in the States. CNN is full of shit. The CBC is full of shit. Anything that they say, you can be guaranteed about 2% of it is true, and 98% of it is a lie.
Men could spend 1,000 years building a megalithic structure, perfect in every degree and at every angle. And that can all be torn down to nothing but rubble and ashes at the mere whisper of the word tyranny.
Alrighty, folks, there you have it. Words of wisdom from the man, the myth, the legend, Jay Shaw. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you again on Thursday, same time, same bad channel. Much love, people. We have had fun, and we'll see you on Thursday. All right.
Yeah.
We're out.
Keep rocking in the free world.
There you go.